All right, guys, give me just a few minutes to get all set up here. I hate staring at myself. It's so weird. What is up, guys? Guys, while I'm getting set up, if you guys have any specific questions that you want answered, I have a topic tonight and we'll have a topic every single Wednesday night. But if there's anything in particular that you guys are like seriously having questions about, make sure that you put it in the comments because even if I don't see it while I'm going through things, if anything pops up, I will obviously make sure that I answer it. And just so you know, I am actually recording these and I'm keeping them not only in the Facebook group, but you can also find them on YouTube. And sometimes I might actually even put them on my podcast if it's something that I feel that people will listen to in their car. But you know me, I like to chat the whole time. So I'll try not to be too chatty tonight. I do obviously have a presentation. That's why I'm using Zoom. And it's a real basic presentation, guys. You know me, I'm not fancy. I just want to make sure that I have the right browser open, which is like three browsers actually, because I have Safari. Close this. And I think that this is what I want. Yeah. All right. All right, guys. So while I'm going through this, I'm not actually going to be able to look at the comments. But if anything does pop up as I'm going through this and I'm done, I'm going to go back and answer questions. So don't be afraid to put your questions in there, which actually I think there is a little bit of a lag anyways. So it's kind of helpful for you to be able to have that time. So guys, so tonight I have a topic, but more so something that sparked that topic. And I'm going to basically start by talking a little bit about my journey. Well, one of my many stories that I have. And as you're going to see here, it says, well, part one, part of it, because we all have multiple stories and our lives are constantly changing and we're constantly evolving. But I wanted to share this specific time in my life because I think it's very relevant to a lot of the people that I could connect with online, in the gym, and all of that kinds of stuff. So I wanted to kind of start with that. So the two pictures you're going to see there are the photo on the left is actually a photo of me during my very first Murph. I was probably maybe 6 months into CrossFit. Yeah, about 6 months into CrossFit. First time doing it, like we did it straight through. And then the photo on the right is me about 4 years later at the 2014 Northeast Regionals. And now I was super fit. Don't get me wrong, I was super fit, but I was really uncomfortable with how I looked. And I will be honest, deadlifts are definitely not the most flattering lifts to be taken because of the way we have to breathe for them. But even so, I really had gotten to a place where I hated how I looked. And I didn't really know what to do because I was seeing some progress. I was getting stronger. I was getting fitter, but I wasn't looking it. I was actually looking less fit. Not that I wanted to be string being skinny like I was in the photo on the left, but I also wanted to be able to look like the other athletes I had seen at the CrossFit Games, and I didn't feel like I looked like that. And so it was super hard. And even if I felt really fit, I would be comfortable enough to wear all white and the sports bra and shorts. But then I would see this photo and I was like, oh, I should have put my clothes back on. Like that's honestly what went through my head. So, and I'm going to kind of back up a little bit and talk to you guys a little bit about my story before CrossFit. I'm not going to go all into the details, but I had come out of a really dark place. I had spent about 6 years dealing with an eating disorder, whole other part of my story. And then when I came into CrossFit, I was fresh out of a treatment center where they preached and taught us about exchanges. They basically wanted us to get way more comfortable eating more food. So it was basically like, hey, here's how you should be eating, but we're going to add some of these boost shakes on top of that to get you to gain some weight. So they left us there like with this like very structured, like I want to call it almost like the diabetic exchange system. It was like three proteins, three starches, two fats, two a fruit, vegetable. It was very, very, very like components. And it was kind of against a lot of what I had learned, before that. I'd already been through a lot of schooling for nutrition. And, when I went into treatment, but I honestly was like, guys, I don't need to be taught how to eat Oreos. I just want to know how to eat more sweet potatoes and peanut butter and not feel bad about it. So anyways, when I started CrossFit, I drank the CrossFit Kool-Aid. I went all in. I was like, this is my passion. I want to go all in on this. I want to become a CrossFit coach. I went and got my level 1 certification. Boom. Learned a whole new strategy for nutrition. Enter paleo, enter the zone, enter a lot of talk about inflammatory foods, gluten sensitivities, dairy sensitivities. This is around the time that Rob Wolf was really big. A ton of really good scientific stuff that made a lot of sense. And for some people, it still makes a lot of sense. I am not telling you at all that the paleo diet is bad. I do think it is a very solid foundation for where we should all be eating the majority of our foods. But there are some things that we should be sprinkling in on top of that. And there is some things that we should learn that aren't necessarily bad or good. But I kind of went from this exchange system in my treatment to now this exchange system of blocks with the zone. And then it was, let me eliminate grains and dairy because those are going to cause more inflammation. And it's obviously causing me to not perform as well. So I started doing paleo as well. Going as far as even going to the Whole30 because I was just trying to be the best I could be. And I was really believing that this was the healthiest way to eat. I was also being fed the diet of the dietary protocol of the zone. It was based off a block system, and each block counted for protein, carbs, and fats, very much macro based, but we don't want to call it macros back then, right? But it was basically like 1,200 calories. And I was training CrossFit. I was a vet tech full time at the time. And then I had started shifting into being a part-time vet tech and then a part-time coach. And I was literally eating 1,200 calories a day and I was starving. And the thought back then was, well, just eat more fat because fat is, hormonally neutral. And it's not going to cause blood sugar problems. So you're not going to store it as fat. It's going to get burned up as energy. And I was like, oh, cool. Okay, let me just start smashing almonds and almond butter and bacon and eat more fat. So that's what I started to do. Got out of control and I was hungry all the time. But what my body needed was not more fat. My body needed carbs. I was training a glycolytic sport and fueling it with something that wasn't giving it any fuel. It was like putting oil in a gas tank. It just wasn't working. And then what was happening here, as you can see, is I was unknowingly restricting my calories because I was following what this block prescription told me. But I was under eating and it was causing me to overeat. I was getting so hungry that I was overeating on the weekends. I had every good intention of being a healthy eater, and then that would happen. And I'll be honest, my Saturday nights were like, let me go smash a whole pizza plus ice cream. God forbid I went to a party where there was like tons of like tapas type foods and chicken dip and stuff like that. I'd be all over it. Oh, what do I do? Okay, there we go. Okay. So here's what I believe to be true. Okay. I needed to avoid gluten and dairy. I should be eating more fat because it helps you burn more fat. I even tried things like intermittent fasting, being told that was going to help me burn more fat. Post-workout protein shakes and carbs are going to help me burn more fat. I was looking at all these ways to burn fat and build muscle. It's really what I wanted to do. And that I could have a cheat meal once a week because I earned it. So every Saturday night for like 4 hours, I would smash food, like whatever I wanted. I was basically believing that. And then I would have this guilt, and I was basically being told like I could compensate with my binges with restriction, enter the intermittent fasting afterwards, or whatever I wanted to call it then. It was just this bad spiraling of me going from one extreme to the other, all with good intentions of I thought I was eating healthy and I thought I was doing the right thing. And it was really kind of like stressful because I knew I wasn't doing the right thing. Because every time I would get like a piece of bread, I would have to eat like 5 of them. And I know I was not following the protocols that I should have been following, but we're going to get into that. Oops, wrong way. What was really true? One, I was not aware of how many calories I was eating. I was abiding by a dietary protocol based on blocks, and I was really not paying attention to how many fats I was eating because I was told that it didn't matter. Like I said, I was eating entirely too many calories from fat. I was binging because I was under eating. And maybe you were not in that healthy mindset, but I know a lot of people can relate to being on some type of a dietary protocol where you are like so good for like 3 or 4 days out of the week. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I had one French fry and then I had to have a whole bunch of French fries. Or I decided to have one bite and couldn't stop at one bite. We've all been there. I was honestly, and this is a big one that I know that many of you guys might not relate to this. I was looking for an excuse to be able to eat what I wanted. Guys, this is going to make me super fired up because it was a really rough time in my life. For 6 years, I starved myself. 6 years, I starved myself. I lived on 200 to 300 calories a day. I was working out for 5 to 6 hours a day, not doing strength training. I didn't even touch a barbell. It was like cardio, elliptical, free weights, like jump rope, burpees that I didn't know were burpees back then. It was just literally trying to kill myself. It was running myself into the ground. So you give me a protocol like when I walked away from the zone and started doing just paleo, where it's like, you can eat as much as you want of these foods. I was like, hell yeah, sign me up. I can have as much bacon as I want, as much of this as I want. I didn't care. I didn't care that I wasn't eating Oreos at the time, because if I could eat as much of that as I want, I was not going to feel hungry. Guys, it sucks to be hungry. When you're starving yourself, you are miserable. So when I was given the go ahead, the green light that, man, if you follow this paleo diet, it doesn't matter how much you eat. You can eat as much as you want. You're not going to gain weight. Well, guess what? I was gaining weight. And I was getting strong as shit. But I was not liking the way that my body was changing. And I had to keep reminding myself, Cheryl, don't go back to where you were. You don't need to go back to that eating disorder. You don't have to go back there. But when I was looking at my body changing, I was not happy. And I kept doing it over and over again. I was really avoiding a couple of things. One is a fear that I had that if I started to try and control my nutrition again, that it was going to spiral me back to where I was before. And I didn't want to go back there. Guys, that was a miserable time in my life, and I don't ever want to relive it. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. And I did have to relive it at one point, but we're not going to get into that story today. I was really afraid of going back there, but I was actually causing the exact same issue in a different way. My disordered eating patterns were honestly worse because paleo had not really taught me anything about eating healthy. It had taught me how to eat as much as I want. Yeah, it was a good base, but it wasn't giving me the portion control that I wanted. The diabetic exchange system from treatment didn't teach me how to have a healthy relationship with food because I was still living on cookie cutter diet plan. So I really had to take a second and remind myself that my eating disorder was a coping mechanism. I was no longer dealing with those things, and I understood that. And I needed to learn how to take control of my nutrition in a way that would allow me to feel satisfied, allow me to live my life, but allow me to be happy with who I was. So in came the breaking point. And if you guys can see this photo, it's probably not it's not really a great photo. It's one that I found that it was honestly the day that everything changed for me. We did a test this day, and it was an aerobic capacity test where it was 4 minutes on and 1 minute off for 4 rounds on the wonderful Devil bike. And if you guys have never done this test, it is brutal. Okay. You basically are looking to get an average watt output, and there is a setting on the bike. So if you guys decide to do this, let me know. You're looking for your average watt output divided by your weight in kilos. It gives you a score. The score is something that they use for people trying to get a spot on the Tour de France. So you have to get a specific score to get there. We were using it as a metric of gauging our fitness. I am a very competitive person, and this test, I did really well on it, but I wanted to do better on it. I got my body fat tested and did not like the number I saw. I also was basically given the go ahead, hey, you should probably cut some weight. This test and this day changed the entire trajectory of my life in so many ways. And it sounds so dumb, but it's not the first time. And I just spoke to one of my clients about this today, that I had some moment in my life completely change me. This was one of those defining moments. And there's a lot to unpack about this time in my life, but I'm going to talk about the positive side of it today because that's what I want you guys to get out of it, because this is what I want to teach you guys tonight. Okay. This test changed my life, but it drove me. That day I said, I'm fucking doing this shit. I'm getting control of my nutrition again. I'm taking control of my body again. I made a commitment. I stopped looking for excuses. I stopped trying to figure out which supplements to be taking because I was trying them all. Conjugated linoleic acid, MCT oil, more fish oil, whatever, like fat burning, like whatever, like not fat burning supplements, but there's a lot of like, herbs and shit like that that they put in blends. I was willing to try it all because I didn't know why I was gaining weight. I knew why I was gaining weight. I didn't want to face it. But I committed, I let go of all the excuses, and I made a plan of action. How do I do this? The plan. Okay? Fucking simple. I downloaded MyFitnessPal, and trust me, there's a lot more to unpack about this, so please don't take this as this is your plan, because there was a lot that did not go well with this, okay? I downloaded MyFitnessPal. I found an online calorie calculator. I kept my calorie intake around 1,800, and I made sure that I got at least body weight protein. And I did that every single day. And some days I would have to eat out, but I'd make it work. And every once in a while, the numbers would go over, but I would make it work. And I committed, and I got comments, and I got, I was hungry for sure. I had to wait for mealtime because I was getting hungry. I honestly started seeing progress, not as fast as people think, but in a couple of weeks, I was already like really looking different. A month later, people were like, wow, Cheryl, what are you doing? You look different. I was like, hey, something's finally working. That's all I did. And I kept doing it. What were my results? Well, this photo was taken probably about I want to say about 3 to 4 months after I give or take. I could be actually, I want to say about 3 to 4 months after I started trying to cut. And I lost 25 pounds. My energy levels went up. My aerobic capacity went up. I had better gymnastics. I finally had abs. When I go back to my first picture, guys, I didn't really have abs. I mean, I was skinny there, but I didn't have any abs. I didn't have much muscle at all. But CrossFit, I built muscle. This could be a whole tangent about how body recomposition actually works. This is why people, quote unquote, dirty bulk, because you can get bulky. And then when you get cut again, you look a lot different. Okay. Had abs, actually finally felt pretty confident in my body. I actually felt comfortable. Like I saw photos, I was like, wow, I actually have abs. Look at the legs I have. Like, I'm not trying to be a vain person, but I actually, for once in my life, felt like I looked fit. I looked athletic. So I was really happy. So that was my little story. And I'm going to debunk a few things that I feel like you guys all need to hear about. And the reason I started with that story is because I want to end this today with giving you guys some specific action steps that you guys can all be taking right now if you want to see better results. So, oh, look at I just found a typo. I actually, examine.com has a lot of peer-reviewed articles, and I had looked up top diet myths for 2021. And I'm not going to go over all of these today, but I want you to see how many of these things on here you have all heard, because I've heard all these plus some. All of these foods being bad, protein's bad, which that was actually one I was like, really? People think protein's bad? And then I was like, oh yeah, I guess people do say that. Carbs are bad, fat is bad, egg yolks are bad, red meat is bad, salt is bad, bread is bad. You shouldn't do high fructose. Well, you shouldn't really do high fructose corn syrup, but it's worse than sugar. Dietary supplements, there's just so many different food myths out there. You should only eat clean. You should detox regularly. Eating more often boosts your metabolism. These are all things that people are fucking feeding you all the time. They're always trying to find a way to get you engaged. Oh, cool. That's what I should be doing. Oh, maybe I'll start doing that. Oh, that's why I'm gaining weight, because I'm eating before bed. All of that shit, I was there. I did it. I freaking was like, maybe I'm gluten sensitive. Maybe I'm need to start fasting. I get it. And it all came down to one thing. It was this simple. It was, let me go back again and rewind you guys. Oh, these aren't going ahead. Okay. Freaking weighing and tracking my food and watching my calorie intake. If I go back to my story, the story before this story, that's how I lost weight to begin with. I watched my calorie intake. All those supplements, all those dietary strategies, low carb I tried, high fat I tried, fasting I tried, none of that shit made me lose weight. None of it. And it wasted so much of my mental energy. So much of it. Because I sit here Googling, why am I not losing weight? Why am I gaining weight? So I want to go into a couple of the dietary myths that I want to talk about today. And this first one that I put, and it's more of the things that I want you guys to understand tonight more than anything. Okay. Dietary myth number one. On the left, you see this: avoid carbs to lose weight. On the right, you see this: avoid fat to lose weight. Okay. Avoiding a complete macronutrient does not cause weight loss. Regardless of what you think, regardless of what social media tells you, cutting carbs does not cause weight loss. Cutting fat does not cause weight loss. All of our macronutrients have calories. Cutting calories causes weight loss. Being in a calorie deficit causes weight loss. However you want to get there. The problem is when you cut out a whole food group, now you're restricted. Now you're me, that girl living on 1,200 calories a day, wondering why she's binging on the weekends. Because I've been told, shouldn't eat those foods. They're bad. So guess what? When I have them, it's going to be the last time I'm going to eat the whole pizza. I would literally stuff myself sick of food. Okay. So here's what I'm going to go into, and this is a big one. Replacing calories from carbs with calories from fat does not change overall calorie intake. In fact, it often makes it higher because fat is twice as caloric as carbs. If I have 20 grams of carbs, I've only had 80 calories. If I have 20 grams of fat, I've had 180 calories. Just to give you guys perspective of what 20 grams of fat looks like, that's about 12 macadamia nuts. Not a lot. That's about 1.5 tablespoons of oil. Easily put in a pan when you're eating high fat. Okay, sausage. One sausage link has about 16 grams of fat. All right, so that's where you guys can get into perspective of not even realizing if you're wondering that. Now, part two, reducing carbohydrate intake will result in a drop in glycogen stores, aka the water flush. Once glycogen stores are depleted, you will see a loss of any more weight loss or a more gradual reduction in body fat if you are actually, in fact, in a calorie deficit. What I basically want you guys to understand is that when you get that flood of weight loss, when you go low carb, it's not body fat. It's not. Our body, imagine your muscles are water balloons, and it's the same thing with your fat stores. We're going to use water balloons. I like water balloons as an analogy, or sponge. We'll use a sponge, okay? Imagine your muscles are sponges, and whenever you ingest carbohydrates, they swell open, okay? When you deplete carbohydrates, they shrink and shrivel. So what you're seeing is a loss in that glycogen source. Not to mention, carbohydrates are usually higher in volume than fats, so they're going to weigh more in your stomach. Okay, so like if you have a cup of oats, that's probably with the water about half a pound. That's only about 150 calories. A tablespoon of oil is about 120 calories. It's not going to feel, and that only weighs about an ounce. That's like a 1/16 of a pound. So you're seeing that change in weight. But this is where the scale isn't always the one measure that you need to be looking at for weight loss. On the flip side here, you're going to see I put avoid fat to lose weight. Okay. Replacing calories from fat with calories from carbs and protein does not change overall calorie intake. I'm going to use this as this was me when I was paleo. I was avoiding carbs except for sweet potatoes and like fruit, but for the most part, limiting carbs, and eating like my breakfast was like avocado, eggs, peanut butter, or almond butter, no peanut butter, with maybe a banana. Tons of fat and no protein, or I'm sorry, no carbs. I would drink a protein shake after every single session just because. Like that didn't count. Like I wasn't supposed to count that in my calorie intake as my body was absorbing it. Reducing fat intake will usually result in a larger calorie deficit though. So is where I go back to that talk I had a little bit earlier about the carbs versus fat, is that because fat is twice as caloric, you are normally going to be in a larger calorie deficit when you cut fat. However, that extreme low fat or big drop in calories often will result in a bigger response of cravings and can often lead to overeating. So, what I want you to get out of this is cutting carbs or cutting fat does not cause weight loss. Cutting calories cause weight loss. And it's important to find a dietary protocol, what that macronutrient breakdown of carbs to fat needs to be for you to be able to be consistent long term, not just for a short period of time. 3 weeks, 4 weeks is not long term. I'm talking lifestyle. I'm talking, what do you want to eat a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now? Dietary myth number 2. Okay. I didn't mean to blow myself up. Meal timing, restricted eating windows helps improve fat loss. This is controversial. There are some small studies that will say that there is a slight benefit hormonally, hormonal responses. But for the most part, out of 100%, think of that like the 0.05%. Okay. It's literally doing nothing from you other than making your life a living hell if you live a high stress job and you're always hungry. Now, some people, restricted eating windows works for them because of their lifestyle, but it's not what's actually causing the weight loss. It is, going back to myth number 1, the calorie deficit. Because calorie intake over the course of the day and your average intake over the course of the week is what will create, I forgot a C, damn it, what will create that weight loss. It's not the actual timing of the food, because it goes back into the nighttime eating thing. It's honestly your overall caloric intake, because your body has to digest all that food before it's even processed as energy stored or fat storage or any of that stuff or being used for nutrients. All of it has to be broken down. So this also goes into why you guys freak out when the weight fluctuates when you've eaten more food than you're used to, because your body has to break all that food down and it's not used to it. It's not that you're gaining weight. Your body has, the analogy I give people is like, pretend you have a whole bunch of wood in your backyard and you want to burn it all. It's going to take some time. Same thing here. However, as I put here, restricting meal timing can help a person control caloric intake by not allowing for as many feeding opportunities. This is good for those of you guys that I believe one of the worst habits people can get into is I'm a grazer all day. I tend to graze throughout the day. I grab bites here and there. Once again, it's that caloric awareness that you don't see. But restricting your meal timing, whether it be versus an eating window or specific times of the day, or specific numbers of meals per day, can actually help a person see better results because they're in control of their calories better. The one thing I'm going to say is that oftentimes people don't realize that fasted sense, or that fasted state, for some people, they can feel like they're energized, but oftentimes that will be met with a energy crash after, so long, and or over a period of time that actually wears off, and it can create the opposite. So it's actually better for blood sugar regulation and everything that you're eating pretty normally throughout the day. So I don't think that people should be stress eating though. Like I don't recommend eating while you're like trying to handle work emails and stuff like that, because then we end up being mindless with it. The other thing is that meal timing post workout, and it can also help to alleviate any like crazy cravings or hunger later on in the day. And this goes for a lot of my morning people that wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and then they go to the gym and then they go right to work. That post workout meal is really important because your body is so stressed. It's going to actually help you control hunger later on in the day if you have a larger meal then after that workout. All right, take a little sip of my drink. I'm moving on down. All right, this is a good one. MyFitnessPal says if I eat X amount of calories for the next X weeks, months, I will weigh X amount in this much time. Nope. I wish it was that simple. My job would be easy. I'd be like, okay, great. Bob, you weigh this much. By May 31st, you're going to weigh this much if you follow these macros. It don't happen that way, guys. There are so many other things going on. Our metabolic rates are not static. They are constantly changing. You know, for instance, right now, if you're living in Florida, it is freaking brutally hot. The temperature like control, like our body's thermostat is constantly working. Like it's hard. It's hard freaking work. If you're working out outside, it's even harder. Okay. Our bodies are never static. They're always changing. And honestly, dropping those calories so drastically. So like if you look up on MyFitnessPal and it says if you eat 1,200 calories a day, you're going to lose this much pounds every single week. By this week, you're going to be this much. When you drop calories drastically, your body adapts to that very drastically. So if you're going from 2,100 calories, well, let's be real honest, when people aren't tracking macros or calories, they're probably eating, most people, if you're gaining weight, you're probably in the 3,000 to 4,000 calorie range. And I'll go into that a little bit, in a second. But if you're gaining weight and, you now drop calories so much, your body's going to adapt to those calories. It's going to say, hey, this is how much energy I have available. Where can I conserve things? This is where you're going to get a drop in energy. Suddenly your workouts don't feel as good. Suddenly you're, just not as motivated anymore. Sometimes even you don't even realize the things that you used to do, you're not doing anymore. There's just so many other factors that play a role in our body fat, and our body composition that it's impossible to predict that. The other one I put on here is the scale isn't going down. It isn't working. What needs to change? Guys, maintaining a new low is work for your body. So when you adjust your weight, your body has to work for that. Your body has to adapt to that. That's why I said your body's never staying the same. So even though you might not see the weight going down, doesn't mean that you're not seeing progress. In fact, there might be a lot of things going on inside that you don't know what's going on. Body composition changes, fat cells can be burning off, muscle can be being built. Like you have no idea. So, and what weight fluctuations will definitely happen throughout the process. We all know so many other things factor into our weight. And an analogy I gave somebody today is pretend you have a duffel bag and it's like full of like socks and shoes and clothes and has like maybe some, toiletries and stuff like that. If you're adding, more socks in and maybe your socks are like, I don't know, the fat cells, like that's one thing, but there's so many other things in that bag. So when you're not seeing that change, there could be other things happening. All right. Dietary myth number 4. Processed foods are bad for you and cause weight gain. This is a big one I get a lot of. Like whenever I have a client and I'm like, I had this happen earlier this week. I'm like, you don't need any bread? Because I was trying to help her with a meal plan. I'm like, maybe you should have like, because I was trying to get her more carbs. Why don't we have like a whole wheat English muffin in the morning? And isn't that so processed? Like, I hate the word processed. Guys, all of our food is processed. Everything we eat is processed. Nothing you eat is not processed. There are things that are more processed than others, but and honestly, the more processed a food is, the more calories your body is going to absorb of it faster. Whereas like vegetables and something that have fiber and all these other things that have to be broken down, but the more digestible a food is, obviously, the more your body's going to absorb with it. All of our foods are processed though. These foods, though, are often higher in palatability and calories, so they should be used in moderation to allow you to feel satisfied. So, what I mean by that is, like one sausage link is very processed, high in calories, super tasty. You could probably eat 2 of them, right? But it's like 400 calories versus like the same amount of chicken breast. Not as, processed, it's very simple. Things like chips and processed meals that are all got a bunch of ingredients in them, sauces, all of that stuff is going to be higher in calories. It's going to make things taste good. So trying to minimize your consumption of that is going to help you with weight loss because you can eat more food when you're not eating as much processed food. But it's not that processed foods are bad for you. There are some ingredients in foods that you want to watch out for that can be bad for your health, specifically like a lot of like the colors with numbers and stuff like that. But for the most part, you know, saying a food that's processed is bad for you is not necessarily true. and it doesn't cause you to gain weight. It's more so a health factor that you're looking outside of, not just a weight factor. So definitely want you guys to focus on nutrient dense foods, but allow yourself for some of those fun foods as well. Everybody loves, a good pizza, like that's somewhat processed. There's going to be sauce on there. Everybody loves, you know, chicken wings. There's so many different foods out there that can be obviously have like different things in there that aren't necessarily all clean. I love me some cereal. All right. This is a big one. Okay. We see photos online, we see testimonials online, and we instantly don't even think about how long that might have taken or how long that person maintained it. I didn't put any photos of me now in here, guys, but my body weight, aside from when I specifically actually tried to manipulate my body weight, stayed the same for 5 years. Last year, I made a push to gain some weight, and I've been able to maintain my weight gain on purpose. But I was about 120 to 125 for 5.5 years, and I would have still been there had I not purposely manipulated my calories to build weight or add weight. So they don't happen fast, guys. And honestly, the faster they happen, the less likely you are to maintain them. Gradual progress is going to be more sustainable on your body. You don't think that, you don't know that. Your body knows that. And it's like if you if you would get into a cold pool, like, and you jump in, it's freezing, like it's going to be hard to stay in it. But if like you jump into a lukewarm pool and like they start to kind of like slowly make it warmer or slowly make it colder, your body can adapt to that and it lasts a lot longer. So you can't measure your progress off of a 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks. It's got to be, how have I maintained this loss over 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 2 years, 4 years? It happens so much longer. You don't gain weight overnight. You don't develop those bad habits overnight. Most people's habits are ingrained in them from things that they did as children. You pretty much eat the same foods that you probably did, unless you've manipulated them with diets, as you did when you were younger. It doesn't come off overnight because it didn't come on overnight. Habit change is important for your body to change. So learn to like the new changes you are making in your life so that they can become the new norm. What I basically want you to understand is that the person you have to become, and I actually made this post today on Instagram, person you have to become to reach those goals is the person you're going to be when you reach them. And that's the person that you're going to live. So you have to find a way to get to your goal that you actually enjoy. Now, I'll be honest, it sucks being hungry. When you're in a cut, it's not fun. But avoiding specific food groups is not realistic or sustainable long term. Finding a balance of everything is the right way to do things. So how did I change? And I kind of already talked about this a little bit, and I'm just going to kind of revamp things a little bit or review things. How did I go from yo-yo dieting, weight fluctuations to consistent progress? How did I learn how to eat all the foods I enjoy and lose weight? Because I added a lot of foods back in when I started counting calories again. Love me some chocolate rice cakes. How did I finally stop looking for the problem by researching all the reasons why I couldn't lose weight? How did I finally commit? If you are one of my clients and you were on my Zoom on Sunday night, you know exactly where I'm going with this. I took it seriously. When I go back to that day, I didn't want to go forward. I wanted to go backwards to this person right here. I committed. I took it seriously. I had to say it out loud. I honestly can remember days where I would sit at the front desk and be like, I'm so fucking hungry right now. I'm like, I need to wait another 30 minutes to eat because I'm going to wait until I eat. Time to eat. Like, that's what I did. I took it seriously. I took it seriously. I gave up trying and failing and I went all in. I basically said to myself, this is what I need to do. I stuck it out. I didn't look for a way out. I didn't look for any other excuses. I stayed consistent. I didn't focus on the scale. I just kept doing. I knew if I was hungry that I was likely under eating, so I was likely going to start to see weight loss. There was times where I would want to eat things and I had to say no. I would be like, oh, I'm going to limit that. I'm going to have a couple pieces of sushi and leave it there. I dealt with cravings. I dealt with hunger. I dealt with all that stuff. I said no. I also, this last part here, I started to say no to the foods that I knew were not going to satisfy my hunger. And I started to say yes to the foods that were. which guess what that taught me? How to fuel my body, because I wasn't eating a bunch of crap food. I was eating a lot of the healthy stuff because I knew it made me feel more satisfied. When you're on a limited calorie budget, you're going to be a little bit smarter with those things. Here's where I'm going to get real with you guys. And I'm going to kind of step away from my presentation for a second and be real honest. And I made an Instagram post about this. And like I said in my Zoom on Sunday night, guys, do you really want to lose weight? Do you really want to change your body? Do you really want to do those things? Okay? Because if you want those things, you need to stop telling yourself you don't deserve it. That you don't need to take it seriously. Because guess what? You need to take it seriously. It doesn't mean it has to consume your whole life. It doesn't mean it has to be your only priority. It just means that when you're working, you're fucking working. Like every action step you're given, you're taking action on it. Put me in, coach. That's my favorite thing to say. You know, you can go to school and you can half-ass school and you can half-ass listening to the teacher and all that kinds of shit and end up with a C-. Or you can say, you know what? Like, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to like be at the top of my class and I'm going to get a kick-ass job with that degree. Like, totally different scenario, but it's the same fucking thing. You got to take it seriously. And I'm not wanting you guys to be like, oh my gosh, you know, I have to really dial in my nutrition, yada, yada, yada. If you're wanting to know why you can't lose weight, it's because you never have taken it seriously. You have never given yourself the opportunity to see what it feels like to go all in on learning what your body feels good eating, what your body needs. Now, this isn't just my plan, but anybody's plan that's going to offer you coaching that's going to be good and worth the thing. You should not feel tired, lethargic, hungry all the time, or miserable. I can go back to my 1800 calorie diet because I did it the wrong way. All right. None of those things should be part of the equation. Should you have to practice some self-discipline? Yes. Some self-control? Absolutely. But you should not feel like shit every day at all. In fact, I like my clients to be very honest with me about how they feel, even though they don't like to all the time. Because if they're feeling bad, guess what? I'm going to give them more food. I'm going to make them feel better. And I'm still going to get them results. It doesn't require deprivation. It just requires you to go all in and commit. To stop looking for it not to work. To stop trying to find another solution. To get out of everybody else's plans, off the Instagram feed, and on your own feed. That's what it takes. Focus, discipline, and commitment to yourselves. I think that's all I got tonight, guys. So I'm going to close out this presentation and I'm going to go into my Facebook group and I am going to see if anybody else is. Congrats, Craig, in here. Good morning, Craig. No questions. Guys, if you guys have any questions, anything else you want to know about, shoot me a message. I want to hear from you. Y'all are awesome. Thanks for listening to me talk tonight. I'll talk to y'all soon.